And so Mr. Tom Lyons will read it in English.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here, especially to Thich Nhat Hanh's Root Temple, to allow me the honor and the privilege of sharing in this memorial service for the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. On behalf of the United States Mission in Vietnam and the American people, I would like to offer my sincere condolences to the Plum Village communities and the Tu Hu Temple, all the disciples, and all the followers of Master Thich Nhat Hanh on the event of his passing. This is truly a sad occasion, but I am humbled by the opportunity to come and pay my respects on behalf of my government and my fellow citizens. Thay's passing will be mourned throughout the world, but his passing will be felt especially in the United States, where throughout his life, Thay had a great impact, touching lives with his teachings and forging close ties with political and religious leaders for more than 60 years. Thich Nhat Hanh met with many U.S. officials during his lifetime, including our former ambassador to Vietnam and the current Assistant Secretary for East Asia and the Pacific, Daniel Crittenbrink, Senator Patrick Leahy, former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and others. In all these interactions, Thay was a fearless advocate for peace and compassionate social action. He leaves behind in the United States a strong and respected legacy of nonviolent activism and spiritual engagement, including 3 US-based monasteries in the Plum Village tradition located in New York, California, and Mississippi. Thay's message of peace also played an instrumental role in bringing about the personal healing for thousands of veterans of the violent war between America and Vietnam, who suffered mental trauma, and in bringing reconciliation between our 2 nations, a reconciliation that in 2020 marked the milestone of 25 years of formal diplomatic ties. Finally, Thay was also one of the first people to bring to America the gift of Zen practices of mindfulness, which have since become ubiquitous in the fields of healthcare, psychology, and education, and in the daily lives of thousands of Americans. Thich Nhat Hanh will be most remembered for his tireless championing of religious freedom, human rights, nonviolence, and his message of mindfulness in daily life. Although Thay's influence spread well beyond the realm of religion, he leaves a legacy as one of the most influential religious leaders in recent history. He is probably best remembered as a leading light in interfaith and interreligious dialogue. In his book, Living Buddha, Living Christ, Thay wrote that Christians and Buddhists who are both living deeply in their contemplative lives do not think those in other traditions are going the wrong way. Religious experience is a human experience. It has to do with human consciousness, individual and collective. Through his extensive dialogue and relationships, people from all religions have learned much from one another. Thich Nhat Hanh's compassion for interreligious harmony was probably most visible in his relationship with Dr. Martin Luther King. At their first meeting in 1966, Thay recognized the Buddha nature in the Baptist minister and told King he was a bodhisattva. In nominating Thich Nhat Hanh for the Nobel Prize, Dr. King reciprocated the honor, calling Thay an apostle of peace and nonviolence. As I, as a Christian, reflect on the totality of Master Thich's life and influence, another title I believe describes Thay is prophet. The term prophet in the biblical sense is not, as is commonly misunderstood, one who predicts the future, but rather one who communicates with the divine and then proclaims that message to other people. Prophets speak with authority and they proclaim the truth. But oftentimes, the truth they bear, while necessary, is uncomfortable. And though Thay spoke the truth, and spoke it with utmost compassion. His words, like those of his brother, Martin Luther King, were not always received in the compassionate spirit in which they were offered. Thich Nhat Hanh thought deeply, pondering the eternal questions of life, existence, and meaning. He caused us to ponder them too. He invited us to consider the ways of others. Following in the footsteps of Jesus and Martin Luther King, Thay said, "To love our enemies, we must practice deep looking to understand them. If we do, we accept them and we love them. At the moment we accept and love them, they cease to be our enemies." Our world today is filled with animosity, distrust, anger, and vitriol. This acrimony exists between people of differing religions, between people of no religion and people of faith, between people with different political beliefs, between nationalities, and even people with different opinions about current events. But prophets like Thich Nhat Hanh tell us, all of us, people, institutions, and governments, to love one another, to have compassion for our enemies, to seek to understand them, and ultimately to love them. And that's very hard for us to hear. It's even harder for us to do. Rather than understand our enemy, we much prefer to fear them. Thich Nhat Hanh's prophetic voice calls us to compassion, to tolerance, and to understanding the acceptance of those with whom we disagree. In a talk about life after death, Thay once noted that our lives are like candles. Even as the candle grows shorter, we emanate light, heat, and energy. That light, heat, and energy go out into the world, touching the lives of others, providing warmth and light to read by. He said that even after our physical bodies are no longer here, our true self has been offered to the world, and that is our continuation. That energy then returns to us, sometimes immediately, and sometimes well after we're gone. It is not only my wish and my prayer, but my firm belief that Thay's message of compassion, nonviolence, religious freedom, human rights, and the ability to live and love in peace with our neighbors will continue to emanate throughout the world and will return to us and to onward future generations.